Hey guys, this is Rachel, otherwise known as Spunky Misfit Girl, and welcome to Tuesday Truths. And I mentioned last week that I've been reading a lot of really amazing books, and I kind of wanted to share some of them with you. Besides Show Your Work by Austin Kleon, I also just finished Wired to Create by Scott Barry Kaufman and Carolyn Gregoire, and this actually just came out in December, and I basically was like, I need to get my hands on that as soon as I can. It's all about all of the latest neurological research about creativity, and it was really a really interesting read. The chapter headings are imaginative play, passion, daydreaming, solitude, intuition, openness to experience, mindfulness, sensitivity, turning adversity into advantage, and thinking differently. And these are all sort of aspects that overlap with a high level of creative achievement. The chapters that probably resonated with me the most were the one on solitude, the one on openness to experience, sensitivity, and intuition, because those four are things that are huge factors in my life, and it was just really interesting to see the ways in which those things sort of go along with and help out my abilities as a writer. Probably most interesting is the chapter on sensitivity, where they talk a lot about if you follow my blog, you may have seen that I have an article about being a highly sensitive person, which is a term that a psychologist named Elaine Aron came up with. And basically what it means is there's about 20% of the population that's born with a more sensitive nervous system. And it just means that we are more sensitive to things like bright lights, loud noises, hustle and bustle. We get overwhelmed easily when we have too much to do. We're very sensitive to being deeply affected by the arts. We have a tendency to be very sensitive to things like drugs. Like, I barely even take painkillers for headaches anymore because the side effects are just too drastic. Things like that. She has a whole long list. I'll include a link to the list of questions in case you're interested. But basically, there was a whole chapter sort of about how this overlap makes sense with creativity, and it really is interesting because very often what happens is what that means is that those highly sensitive people are the reason for that overwhelm and for that sensitivity very often has to do with the fact that we are taking in so much information and so many details. And they talked about this, I don't know if it was in the sensitivity chapter or if it was in the intuition chapter, but they talked about an idea called latent inhibition, which basically means that we have in our brains this ability to filter out irrelevant information from our environment. And the thing about highly sensitive people and creative people is that we have a lower latent inhibition, meaning we have less ability to filter out information from our environment. So we're taking in basically all the small details from everywhere, from everything. And the thing is that does two things. It is useful in our creative work, like especially for me as a writer. It's huge, but it also means that we get overwhelmed more easily because we're processing and dealing with a lot more stuff. Whereas, somebody who doesn't have that trait is more easily able to say, block out that noise over there that's bothering them, or deal with the fact that the lights are fluorescent and giving them a headache, or whatever it is. So I thought that was really interesting because researchers at Harvard were looking into this. And they said that creative achievers were found to be 7 times more likely to have a reduced latent inhibition, meaning that we have a harder time filtering out what they call seemingly irrelevant information. But what they said was that actually a lot of the time the information did turn out to be relevant. And that's the thing, is that those little details were sort of what allowed the creative people then to innovate and come up with new ideas and do new creative work. So anyway, the whole book is full of really interesting stuff like this. There's also a whole chapter about solitude, which was really lovely for me to read because I'm a person who can just absolutely have endless hours of solitude, and sometimes I feel a little weird and bad about it because I don't really care if I hang out with people. I mean, there's a lot of people I really like in my life, a lot of really wonderful friends, but most of my most favorite pursuits in the world are solitary, and they talk about the importance of having that solitude. The really interesting aspect of it actually was that they talked about how when your mental focus is directed outward, it's actually a different network in your brain that you're using versus when your focus is directed inward. So there's different pathways in your brain. So it actually, and if one of them is on, the other one is off. So the interesting thing about that is that, and I've experienced this in a very visceral way in my life where I feel bad sometimes because I'm really not good at keeping in touch, and people send me Facebook messages all the time, and people send me emails, and I'm so not good at staying on top of answering them because there is part of me that needs to be in this sort of solitude mode in order to write and in order to produce creative work that really, really resists all of that outside information and outside connection, coming in. And that really explains a lot to me, is that it says that literally my brain, in order to do this thing, says, no, we need the inwardly focused network to be activated. And if that's activated, then the outwardly focused one is not. And that's my excuse for why I'm so bad at answering your messages. Anyway, check it out. It's called Wired to Create. I will include the link, the Amazon link down below. And if you're enjoying the Tuesday Truth video series or the writing on the blog, please don't forget to sign up for the Spunky Misfit Girl email list. If you're on the blog, there's a form right below you, right below the video, right below me. If you're on YouTube, go to the blog. It's www.spunkymisfitgirl.com, and make sure you sign up for the email list. I'm only emailing you weekly with wonderful things, creative inspiration, and motivation in your inbox. Thanks for watching, you guys. I'll see you next week.